What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video, and this time we're going to take a look at loose graded figures as well as some ungraded last 17 figures. There were a lot that seemed to sell all around the same time that were all ungraded, all in pretty good shape, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to add those towards the end. But some of the graded items, man, you can see by this thumbnail, there were some big boy prices for a lot of these. And I just want to say thanks to a Patreon supporter, Michael C. He stopped by my house this past weekend, and I was able to hand deliver my graded prototype Acklay Arena Battle Beast. I got to meet Michael as well as his son, and we got to hang out for a few hours. I fed them lunch. I was a good host. And Michael, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope we'll do it again soon. So let's go ahead and take a look at some vintage items. The first one is an AFA 80 brown hair and belt Princess Leia with the brand new K-Style. And as is common, because of the way AFA encases them with the round dowels, those capes can kind of fall off the shoulders. And that's the case with this Leia. And that is a big advantage to me of collector archive services with those J-hooks. If they properly kind of wedge in that cape inside the, around the neck and, pop that collar and, have like the J-hooks going, then it keeps the cape in place. And in general, one of the big defects I feel like for UKG and AFA graded figures that have the vinyl capes is that they can kind of slide off. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't know if it's really that big a deal, to be honest with you, but this is the brown hair and belt variant Hong Kong. That one was listed for $250 and it sold for $230 plus $15 shipping. That's a pretty good price for a fairly high grade Princess Leia. Once you hit 85 and above, you can really start spending some money, $400 or more for an AFA 85 Leia, exact same figure. So I think that was a pretty good buy in my mind, despite the kind of the cape kind of falling off of her shoulders there. Next up was a Spanish PBP variant for Darth Vader. This had the textured cape and was graded by CAS. It was a CAS 85. It sold for $575. That is a big, big number. I really think that you could get it for a lot cheaper than that, although this is a really nice variant. I do like the textured cape orange saber. I've got this exact same figure, exact same grade with CAS, but this one, they put the saber in the figure's hand. When I sent mine into CAS, I requested that they encase the saber separately next to the Darth Vader. And to my knowledge, they'll still do that. If you put a note in there and said, hey, I'd like to have the saber encased next to the figure instead of in the figure's hand. I don't know if, again, I don't know if it really matters that much, but that's just my personal preference on it. But this is a nice Spanish Vader, very high grade, but, UKG 85s, where most of the Spanish figures are going to be graded by UKG, you might pay closer to $300 or less for this figure. So $575 seems a little expensive to me, but it was a very nice figure, and it had that kind of bright orange saber that he's known to come with. So beautiful figure, just the price was a little higher than I like. Next up was a UKG 90% small head Han Solo. You can see there it's got the 90 grade. And this was the older K-Style. This one sold for $440. So I've seen some newer K-Styles sell for about this same price, if not a little bit higher. So I don't think that price was out of the realm. Me personally, I'd probably wait for a newer K-Style, but very high grade, and you're going to be paying some big money for a small head Han Solo in that high of a grade. Next up was a UKG 85% Hong Kong Bosk. This is one I had in my What to Buy video, and it sold very quickly thereafter. It was listed for 125 pounds, which is 155 US dollars. The best offer that was accepted was 115 pounds. So came off just a little bit, let's call that about 8% off of the list price to get this one. Brand new K-Style, glossy limbs, Hong Kong with the olive head. Bosk, that's a pretty figure, and I think that price was great. That's a really good price, I think, for a UKG 85%. Next up is a tough-to-find variant for Luke Jedi. This is the molded face Taiwan, and they can be very, very pricey. This one had the archival AFA case and was graded 75 plus. So not the highest grade, but this is a very, very tough variant to track down. I still don't have this one. Brand new K-Style. This one was listed for 260 pounds, which is 322 US dollars, and the best offer that was accepted was 200 pounds. So the seller came off quite a bit on this one, and again, it was a 75 plus, so that kept the price down just a little bit. But AFA 85s for this, you can probably pay double that pretty easily. So, but 60 pounds off of that list price That is about, let's call that off 260. So what is that? So that's, 60 off of 260. That's a pretty good discount. I can't do the math because my brain is not working this morning, but that's a really good price if you can live with a fairly low grade 75 plus molded face Taiwan. That's a beautiful figure. Next up, we're going to dig into some Lily Lettys. There were a bunch of Lily Lettys that sold, and this was an interesting one. This is the Lily Letty speeder bike, and you don't see this one pop up very often graded. This was graded UKG 85%, and I do see these for sale ungraded in some of the Facebook Lily Letty focus groups, and they usually sell for about $200 US. This one was listed for 240 pounds, which is $300. The best offer that was accepted was 220 pounds. So they came off a little over 10% off that list price. That's probably about 260, 270 US plus the shipping. So I think that's a really good price for a Lily Letty speeder bike. I mean, that's, again, I don't know if I've ever seen one of these loose graded before, so a pretty cool item there. But a bunch of other Lily Lettys sold. This was an AFA 80 Lily Letty ATST driver. It was listed for $444 US. The best offer that was accepted was $287. And I've got a video coming a little bit later, either later this week or next week, where a bunch of Lily Letty AFA graded sold, all loose graded, by Jeff Jacobs, who's a fairly well-known collector on the Facebook groups. He's got probably the best collection in the world for vintage Star Wars stuff. And he listed a bunch of AFA 80s, 75s, 80 pluses that were all loose graded Lily Letty. So I'll cover that in another video later this week. I just had these all kind of ready to go, and I wanted to knock these out first, but I'll put that list together. And I'm pretty sure that the one that sold at auction here in the U.S. by Jeff sold for even less than that. So an AFA 80 Letty ATST driver, again, this one sold for $287.50, and I believe that the one that Jeff had was an AFA 80 plus that sold for even less than that. So really good bargains right now on Lily Letty made in Mexico loose graded figures. I don't know what it is, but the market is way down for those figures. It seems like all the big prices are mainly for the Spanish figures nowadays, and people have kind of like moved past Lily Lettys for some reason. I don't know why, because they are a great variant to pick up. They often have different accessories than the U.S. counterparts, as is the case with this ATST driver. He came with a Black Palace blaster instead of that smaller blaster that he's known for on the U.S. countercards. So really nice variant, AFA 80. That one, again, sold for $287.50. Next up was an auction for an AFA 75 TIE Fighter pilot. Again, the Lily Letty. Older case style on this one, archival case. That one sold for $212.50. I think that price is actually really fair. I don't want to tell you what I paid for my AFA 85 example. I bought mine during the height of Lily Lettys, where everyone was paying big money for them, and I way overpaid for my AFA 85 TIE Fighter pilot. I bet nowadays it probably goes for about half of what I paid for it. So, it is what it is. You win some and you lose some. And in my case, I lost some when I overpaid for it. But that's what we do sometimes. And that was the case when I bought that one that was at auction a long time ago. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago now, at least, if not longer. But this one sold again for $212.50, and that was a pretty good price. Although this case is very old, the figure can rattle around inside, so you're not going to pay nearly as much maybe as if it had an updated case style. But he also had this one. This one had an older case style, but a beautiful, very rare variant, and that's the removable hood Jawa. And this was graded AFA 80, again, the older case style. That one sold for $12.50. $12.50. That is a bargain of a price, let me tell you, because they often sell for way more than that in the Facebook groups ungraded. So I think that was a great buy. Despite the older case style, that's a price I would have been willing to pay all day long. I did pick up a Lily Letty here recently that I'm sure I'll cover in a video that I think I paid a fair price for. And again, if you're into these foreign variants, now's a really good time to be looking at Lily Letty, because the market for those are down. And, we've talked about this in past market updates for loose graded figures, that the common high grade loose figures are really down right now. It's just the rarities that oftentimes can go for big money. But again, this is a fairly rare one within the Lily Letty kind of character runs. And this one even still sold. I know it's a lot of money, $12.50, but that's way down versus, where these can sell for ungraded. So next up was an interesting one. This was a short mask Biker Scout graded uncirculated 85. Now, the interesting thing is this is an older case style, and it doesn't even mention on the label that this is the Lily Letty. So this probably came on a Made in Mexico card back, like the one I unboxed from Hakes and just got graded. But because it says Kenner Star Wars, whereas AFA nowadays say Lily Letty Star Wars. And so the short mass Biker Scout is, to my knowledge, only a Lily Letty. And you can see right here the mouthpiece right here is a little bit shorter maybe than the longer face mask. And so to me, this one should have said Lily Letty on the label, but what do I know? That one sold for $250 plus $565 shipping. I think that's a great price, again, if you can live with the older case style. Moving away from Lily Letty's, we've got a baggie. This was an uncirculated 85 plus Emperor. Obviously the mail away baggie that I guess somebody sent it in the box, and they just loose graded the baggie by itself and then did not include the box with the case. That one sold for $130 free shipping. Again, that's probably about right. It seems like the Emperor baggies are very inexpensive nowadays, but very nice grade though, 85 plus for that, and certainly a good buy there. Next up, we've got a big boy price again on another Last 17 Luke Skywalker Stormtrooper. And so begins my Last 17 focus here. We're going to talk about some loose graded Last 17, I believe, and then we're going to dig into some loose ungraded complete Last 17. But this one was listed for 600 pounds, which is 743 US dollars. It had the new case style and was graded 85% by UKG. And the best offer that was accepted on that one was 560 pounds, which, that runs you probably about $700. And that's probably about right, honestly. We just talked about in another update where an uncirculated 90 AFA loose graded Last 17 Luke Stormtrooper sold for over $3,000, and I'm still trying to get over that price. That price was just mind-boggling. So $700 for this one seems to be a little bit better deal and probably more in line with what I'd be willing to pay for it. Here was another big price on a Last 17 figure, and this is the Yak Face. It was graded UKG 90%, older case style, but it included the very rare coin. So we all know how expensive Yak Face is on the Power of the Force card with that coin. So this one had the coin as well as the figure, and it sold for 1,000 pounds, which is 1,239 US dollars. And again, it's a UKG 90%, admittedly an older label, older case style, but still, wow, that is a relative to what mint on card these sell for, that's not too bad of a price if you ask me. Very, very rare item there. Next up was a CAS 90 Plus Han Solo in Carbonite that sold at auction. This one sold for $419. And again, it was a 90 Plus grade. That is a very high grade. And this one has the dowels. So this obviously was an older case style from CAS before they moved over to the J-hooks. So just keep that in mind. If you see a CAS graded item and it has the dowels around the neck instead of the J-hooks, then this is an older grade. And on the label, it does not have the date that it was graded. Whereas nowadays, Collector Archive services will have 2022 collectorarchive.com instead of just having the website address. So just a couple of pointers for those of you looking at these, but still, it's a 90 plus. That's a really high grade, and $419 for that one is a really good buy in my mind. I'd pay that all day long. Now let's dig into some Last 17 that were loose and ungraded. Here was a Monomon, near mint condition is how it was advertised. That one sold for $345 plus $550 shipping. And then another example sold. This one was advertised as loose complete. And as I've talked about in past videos, it's really hard for me to gauge the condition of a Monomon. I don't know why. It's just, it seems like this figure has got so many nooks and crannies and so many different paint applications that it's hard to kind of gauge whether it's an 80 plus, or an 85, versus some other figures, some of the more common figures that are pretty easy to tell. But this one sold in an auction for $300. 42 bids on this one, plus $10.20 shipping. So that gives you a nice tight price range for a Monomon loose and ungraded. $310 to about $350. So a couple of data points. Here was Barada. This one was advertised as complete with, it didn't really talk about condition, but looking at the photos, it looked to be in pretty good shape overall. As we've talked about in the past, you really got to look at the backpack and kind of wear around the back there, and then the boots oftentimes can have some wear to them. But this one looked pretty good. This one looked pretty clean overall. Maybe some wear right here on his left foot. light wear to the legs as well. So this is probably like an 80 grade condition. That one sold for $195 plus $5.50 shipping. Here was Warwick. That included his bow, his quiver, as well as his hood and coin. That one sold for $240 plus $6.35 shipping. And then here was another one that did not have the coin but was also complete. That one sold for $220 plus $5 shipping. So again, some nice tight price ranges for last 17 loose and ungraded. Here was a Rumba. This one sold for $149 plus $5 shipping. The big thing on Ramba is to check out the torso, check out the belt. The torso can discolor slightly over time, but this one looked to be really clean overall and was probably about fair for market there. Last 17, General Lando. This one also looked to be in great condition overall. It included the Black Palace Blaster. That one sold for $294 plus $5.60 shipping. So another nice example. That's one I would like to pick up loose graded at some point. And then finally, off the wall, away from last 17, we're going to talk about a Power of the Force Imperial Sniper Vehicle mini rig. And this one sold for big money. This was over in Europe. It sold for 450 euros, which is about 500 US plus shipping on that one. So some of those last 17 and Power of the Force mini rigs and Power of the Force vehicles like the Side Gunner, things like that, ATL gun, the ATL Gunner, I can't remember the name of it, but they can go for big money, and this one definitely did. It's a weird contraption, and it kind of looks like a hang glider with a little seat for the figure, and then a little control module there on the left-hand side, as well as a control panel. Very strange vehicle, but apparently it goes for big money because it sold for a lot. 450 euros plus shipping on that one. So wow, big money on that one. So anyway, kind of something a little different. We had some loose and loose complete ungraded. We had some loose graded figures, both UKG, AFA, as well as some CAS items. So I hope you enjoyed this look at some recent sales prices. And again, maybe a little bit later on this week or next week, I'll include some very awesome last 17. There were some cut cards. There were some Lily Lettys that sold. A nice wide range that Jeff Jacob had for sale on his eBay account that we'll go over in more detail. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon.